Good morning and happy Monday. I hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. My weekend was very full. On Saturday, well, Friday night, I started off with rehearsal for my cousin's wedding that took place on Saturday. It turned out very nice. I'm just so happy for her and her husband. I hope they have many, many years of a beautiful marriage. I'm just very happy for her. And, seeing people get married these days really gives me hope since I've never been married. I do want to someday experience the bliss of marriage, and I pray that God has that in my future. Um, Today, I have a lot of things on my mind. Yesterday was kind of hard for me with the all of the memorials on television about 9/11 that just brought back so many emotions. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I remember the frantic feeling that I felt. I remember going to get my children from school. I was just, in a state of panic. So to see all of the events that took place 10 years ago, to see that, back again, it kind of brought up those feelings, the feelings that I had on that day. And then it brought up some other feelings that I have, deep inside of me. I think everybody has things that inside of us that we try to suppress. But it's been my experience that when you suppress things that you don't deal with at the moment that you should probably deal with it, it tends to come back up, and it'll come out in forms of our behaviors or subtle things. But if we don't deal with the things that are hurting us on the inside, they will eventually come out in some way, shape, or form. So we have to really be aware of the things that we go through, and the things that we don't thoroughly go through. Um, Myself, and I'm pretty sure other people can relate. We put on our superwoman capes or our superman capes, and we're always coming to save the day for so many other people's, but we tend to put ourselves on the back burner. I think we should always, put ourselves up front, because if we're no good, then we can't be any good to anybody else. What I want to talk about today is I have a few things on my mind to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about is being around people who and then becoming their fantasies of who we are instead of who we truly are. The mind is a very, very powerful thing. A person can project on you what's going on in their mind, and you will begin to act in that way. This is why it's so important that we know who we are around. Thoroughly know the people that we hang around. I know when you first meet somebody, you don't really know them, but once you get to know them, you need to make a educated decision to either continue with them or to separate yourself from them or spend less time with them, you know, as possible, because we are, whoever we're around, we become who they are eventually. We will pick up on their mannerisms. We will pick up. Have you ever had a friend that had a favorite slang word that they use? And then, I mean, me personally, I don't use slang. It's very rare that you'll hear me saying things what other people say. That's not something that I do. Being that I'm an artist, I have said some things in my music just to be relatable to my audience. However, in my day to day life, I don't use a whole lot of slang language. That's just not me. I've never been that type of person. But have you ever had a friend that said slang words, and then all of a sudden you find yourself saying those same slangs? I mean, if we can pick up on the words that our friends use, imagine what other impressions they are impressing upon us. And, you know, that's why, it's just so important to know who it is that you're hanging around so that they won't be able to project the thoughts that are going on in their mind on us. And we start becoming, it's kind of like we become their fantasies of who we are instead of, who we truly are. An example of this is I remember dating a guy a few years ago, and he had a lot of stuff going on in his mind. And things that I would do with him weren't things that I ever thought about doing before, but it was like I was becoming who he wanted me to be. After a few months, after a few months of dating, I realized that this isn't me, this isn't for me, and I was able to get out of the relationship. I'm very aware of who I am, so when I start to notice that I'm doing things that is not quite, that doesn't quite fit into my character, I quickly, move away from that because I want to always remain true to who I am. And I don't want anyone to negatively influence me to do things that I know I shouldn't be doing. And I know that is just not me. So that's one example of a person impressing upon you how it is they want you to be. And people do this without knowing it. Sometimes they do it by telling you, and they do it by exposing you to things that they expose themselves to. So we just have to be very, very aware of the company that we keep, the relationships that we get into, friendships, romantic, anything. We have to be very aware of people because spirits are transferable. You might find yourself, battling something that your friend is battling, and it's because of your connection with your friend that this has even become an experience in your own life. So we just have to be very, very aware of the people we allow into our homes, the people that we hang around with the most, the people that we talk to on the telephone. We have to be very, very aware of what we're dealing with, who we're dealing with. Another thing I want to speak on today is knowing um, knowing the things that we do that cause us to act out of character. For me personally, I found like many years ago, I won't say many years, I would say within the last 4 years, I began to come aware that it was my drinking liquor that would cause me to behave in ways that I didn't want to behave in. I remember being at a party one night and I had been drinking in excess. I mean, I probably was on drink number 5 or 6. And we really have to know our limits. If we are going to indulge in drinking alcohol, which is something that I still do, but I'm more wiser in choosing what I will drink and what I know that I can't drink if I don't want to take myself to an altered state of who I really am. If I don't want to act out of character, I know what drinks to stay away from. At this time, I don't drink liquor. Every now and then, I will have like maybe 1 or 2 glasses of alcoholic beverage that has liquor in it. But for the most part, I only drink wine because the wine kind of mellows me out and it doesn't cause me to act out of my character. But a few years ago, I was at a party and I was on maybe drink number 5 or 6, and I began to um, act in ways that I was ashamed of. I didn't do anything so outlandish that that caused some serious damage or nothing like that. But the next morning when I got home and I started to think about some of the things that I did, and then I started to see the pictures of some of the things that I did, I was like, I really have to stop drinking. So that's the decision that I made. I made a conscious decision that I would not drink liquor in excess anymore because to it takes you to somewhere that you really don't want to be. And I realized that, like, over the past several years of dating, a lot of my choices were made during inebriated state. You know, when you make a decision after drinking a few drinks to accept an invitation, you know, to somewhere, or to accept a date from someone, and you're in a, like, if you're out at the club and you're drinking and you meet a guy and you're inebriated, basically. I mean, you're drinking, you're at the club and you're having a good time, and a man steps to you and wants to take you out on a date. In that state of mind, you can't make a good decision. So I realized that, you know, guys that I would meet in the club and then eventually go on a date with, I would be on dates and be like, how did I get here? How did I agree to going out with this dude? Um, so it's better for me. I'm not speaking for everybody, but just for me. And your thing may not be alcohol. It may be something else that you're doing that maybe you need to, you know, relax a bit on. But for me, it's just not. I was not my best when I was drinking alcohol. I mean, when I was drinking liquor, I was not the best me that I could possibly be. And I did things that I wouldn't normally do um, if I was not drinking liquor. So that's something that I cut out, not completely, but now I know not to drink over a certain amount if I don't want to behave in a certain way. And I'm proud of myself for doing that. It's just a, you know, a personal thing that I struggled with that I was able to overcome. Um, let's see. That's something I want to talk about. As far as going back to people projecting their thoughts onto you, and along with, if you're drinking, if you're drinking and you're with somebody who's projecting your thoughts onto you, that's a deadly combination, because in your state of inebriation, you will probably, like, lose your inhibitions to do certain things, and I found myself doing that. Oh, one other thing I want to talk about is things that you have overcome in your past. Sometimes it's best to not always talk about it, and if you are going to talk about it to someone that you can trust, because I found myself in situations where I like to speak about the things that I have been able to overcome in my life, and as a way to encourage somebody else that they too can overcome, or that I can relate to what they're going through. I have been in a couple situations where I have shared something that I've overcome with someone, or I have shared something that I've been through as a means to be on a level ground with someone else, to let them know that you're not in this alone. I understand how you feel. I too can relate. And with the bringing up of whatever that thing was, I found myself retreating back to those same behaviors. Sometimes we have to just lay stuff to rest and be done with it. We don't have to be. We don't have to relate to everybody. You know, when somebody says, "Well, I've done this. Have you done this?" We don't have to. We don't have to admit to everything. We don't have to admit to everything, and that's something that I've struggled with, because I'm a very honest person. But I think sometimes when you bring stuff up, that brings it back up, and it brings it back into an experience in your life, and some things just need to be laid to rest. Well, I'm up at 15 minutes on my video. I hope everyone has a fantastic week this week. And just hold on. Change is coming soon. So if you're struggling with anything, just remember that God loves you and to just hold on. Have a great week.